Responses engine 5, engine 3, engine 1, ladder 3, ladder 2, rescue 1. We've got full showing. Division 1, you're on location, box 23, reporting smoke show on 727.
JobTlks Podcast members do not represent the cities and towns they work for in their views and opinions. They are views and opinions that belong to us only. We are not here trying to be the experts or tell people how to do their job. Our goal with this show is simply to facilitate knowledge sharing.
Got it.
Welcome. Episode 6, JobTlks Podcast. We're back in the studio. Today, we're going to talk about our first fires. But before we get there,
you guys have been to fires?
listen, if you haven't, just
been to one. All right, yeah.
Our first fires. It was a campfire at Boy Scouts when I was like 11.
Okay.
Before we get into the content, welcome. Here, episode 6. If you're tuning in for the first time, this podcast is dedicated to discussing all things relating to the fire service. Also, if you're here for the first time, this is episode 6. You can find episode 1 right here. Like how I did that, Nick? Put that one on you. And you can start from the beginning and see how we got to where we are today. We're at least 1/100th famous at this point, I think. I hope.
I think so, yeah.
Whatever that means.
Well, yeah, whatever it means. It's all relative. Our goal here is to have a positive influence on the firehouse culture and fireground tactics. And before we get into it, please help us out. On Instagram and Facebook, you can find us at JobTlks, JobTlks. Please like our page, share our page. Go to our YouTube channel, which is also JobTlks, JobTlks. Biggest thing you can do, subscribe to that channel, share that channel so we can get people watching. The more people we get watching, the more we can share this content, the better positive influence we can have on the fire service at large.
Saving up for that A. One day we'll be able to afford the A in JobTlks.
One day. Yeah, one day. It was an extra $100 in the patent process. So, yeah. This is where we do our disclaimers.
It's gonna be before the episode starts. The disclaimer.
Oh,
Damn it. Well,
Take it.
glad I cleared that up beforehand.
Well, I guess I'm glad we saved on that A because now Nick has to spend an extra $5 editing that out or leaving it.
I'm leaving it.
Awesome. So just so you guys know, we talked about we're overlaying our disclaimers instead of saying them to cut some time down on our episode, which turned out not to work on our first attempt. So we'll get it better.
Tune in for episode 7.
Tune in for episode 7, where the disclaimers show up before
where we
the episode
finally
starts.
have our shit together.
That'll never happen. Yeah. All right. So before we get into the content today, we're gonna do another fire service shout out. This week's shout out goes to the Lawrence, Massachusetts Fire Department. This happened on April 15th. Obviously, we pre-record some of these episodes, so this was only a week or so ago for us, but by the time you see this, it'll probably be last month. But April 15th, Lawrence Fire struck a box for fire, 20 to 22 Crosby Street. The fire alarm initially stated it was a single caller reporting fire in the rear of the house. Usually when you have these legit fires, you end up with something like multiple calls. So initial assignment was engines 6, 8, and 9, ladder 4, squad 1, and car 21. Ladder 4 was pretty close in proximity to where the fire took place. So they reported a 3-story wood frame heavy fire showing from the 3rd floor. Car 21 got on scene pretty shortly after that, took command and reported the fire extending to the 2 buildings on the Bravo and Delta corners. Pretty quickly went to a 2nd and then to a 3rd alarm. 4th alarm at 20:02, and then the 5th alarm was struck at 22:08, stating that 4 buildings were involved at that point, 3 triple-deckers and 1 2-story wood frame. They also had multiple spot fires along Crosby Street. The fire eventually extended to a 5th building, another triple-decker, and although the fire was technically a 5th alarm, that's the highest alarm that the command called, fire alarm had started staging 6th and 7th alarm companies, and they did some special calls above that. So it was about a 7th alarm assignment, but the official calling was a 5th alarm fire. This was obviously a tough fire, extremely tight spaces between the buildings. It was cold, it was windy. I have some video and some photos to show you guys from this. So this is a local guy that took this. I'm going to put a link to his YouTube page up so that you guys can take a look at the whole video. The whole video is about 20 minutes long. He has videos, fires all over the Metro Boston area that are pretty good. He does a lot of photography too. So this has some audio in it as well, so you can hear. So the first part of this is just right here. You can see how close these buildings are together. Pretty wild.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of pretty big buildings.
Yeah, it's almost inevitable.
Yeah. And I believe it started just in the I believe it started just in the on the rear porch of the first building.
Another grill incident, maybe?
Yeah, this guy was partying at 10 o'clock at night.
Probably cigarette butts, man.
Yeah. So you can see, I mean, this thing is absolutely cooking. And this is a lot to keep track of. So this is obviously residential, late at night, so you expect that people are going to be home. So
those are not insignificant sized buildings. Like, there's a lot of occupants to evacuate, a lot of displaced residents.
Yeah. So like that's not like really a typical triple decker, right? That's like a 3-story wood frame, but probably 6 apartments in there.
Yeah.
So not only do you have to keep track of like where lines are going, where the fire's extending, you could hear, I'm not sure who was reporting it, entering building 24 for primary. So you have to search every apartment, every floor, all of these buildings. 10 o'clock at night, there's going to be a ton of people there. I know there were a bunch of people displaced from it. I'm not sure exactly how many. But again, you could just see, I mean, this thing was cooking and pretty quickly spread to a total of 5 buildings. So real short shout out, but just wanted to give a little like shout out to Lawrence, Mass, and kind of highlight the work they did. And it wasn't just Lawrence. I think that's important. They called in a ton of mutual aid. I don't remember exactly how many towns and cities showed up, but they said something like 100 firefighters, maybe 30 apparatus or so. Yeah. But a lot of mutual aid. And I know that, I don't know if it was the fire department of the city had actually put something out and said, who all had come and given them, some props.
Due credit, yeah.
Strong work, boys.
Yeah, so strong work and
boys
strong
and
work to those mutual aid partners and that mutual aid run card that kind of keeps that stuff flowing. So nice work.
Yeah. John and I went to the academy with, I think, like 4 or 5.
Yeah, it was 4 of them, yeah.
4 Lawrence guys. They're all good guys.
I went to the academy with a handful of Lawrence guys too.
Yeah.
All good dudes.
Yeah.
Those guys see some work up there.
Yeah,
they're
our
busy,
class
man.
president, I think, was.
Yeah, Jose, right?
Yeah.
Jose,
if you're watching, hope you're well.
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
Yeah, those guys see a good amount of work, and they have all this, style of building, which and real tight. Almost like this area almost reminds me of kind of like a Chelsea area.
Yeah.
Just really tight wood frame construction.
Yeah.
Those guys start out on the desk too, which not a lot of jobs do that now.
They really?
Yeah, they start out on the desk, so they all dispatch for a long time until they get, through the academy and do everything like that. Obviously things could have changed over the last few years or so, but
do they start on the desk before they go to the academy, and then once they're done, they go to company?
I believe so, but I think there still has to be an opening for them to get up. So, obviously, shout out to those guys on the desk. You know what I mean? Those
absolutely.
could be experienced guys, or they could just be young guys. I'm sure, like I said, they're busy and they get a lot of work, but that's a lot to keep track of.
That's a lot.
Huge
That's
fire.
huge. That takes a lot of resources from a lot of different places to get that done.
Yeah.
Like I said, it takes a total of up to like 7 alarms worth of assignments.
Yeah. Probably say 75 to 100 displaced residents.
Yeah.
Speaks to the importance of having sectors, so you only have so much operational bandwidth.
Yeah, having different people in charge of different areas, different buildings, different interior, exterior, search. Having RIT teams available for all those different. I mean, that's just an enormous amount of resources and an enormous amount of things to think about for the fire. So, big shout out to those guys. If you happen to be at this fire, please reach out to us on our social media or on our website, www.jobtalks.com. If you want to give us some more insight or you want to correct anything that we had to say or let us know what happened, we'd love to put it on with some of these photos. So so that was a video. A couple more photos here. I tried to put the photo credits there, but just a couple more so you could kind of see what they were dealing with. For the people that are listening and not watching, we're going to put this up on our social media. But the top left photo we're looking at is kind of, I think, the initial main fire building. I'm not 100% sure which one was the initial fire building of those. But again, like a 3-story wood frame, larger than your average triple decker. Looks like maybe 6 apartments versus 3. And then next to it would be a standard, what I'd call a triple decker, 3-story wood frame house. To the right of that is just one of these buildings completely engulfed in flames. It looks likely like that's the rear of one of the buildings, maybe the original fire building. Looks like kind of the porch is going. And then just a couple photos of the apparatus working on scene. And you can see one of the mutual aid departments right there, Methuen, in there getting some work done. So, again, nice job, guys.
That middle photo looked like it would be the next cover for the remake of Backdraft.
Which one?
I said the middle photo there with that whole thing going.
Yeah. I could see that top right photo, which is Lawrence Engine 5.
Yeah.
Just kind of surrounded by smoke, all lit up. That would make a pretty sick photo for like Firehouse magazine. You know when they do
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
They do their review of all those fires.
As Nick would say, fully involved.
Nick is learning the terminology. As we go. Nick's favorite term is fully involved.
Fully involved.
So, moving on to our main topic. We're in episode number 6, right? So we kind of started this off talking a lot about different culture, building your career, what makes you a good firefighter, trust, stuff like that. And obviously those things are hugely important in the fire service. But at some point we want to talk about some things that are a little bit beyond the culture and start talking about tactics and different things like that. So today we're going to just talk about our first fires. And not just talk about our first fires, but like maybe a lesson that we learned from our first fires. And I think it's a good segue into like talking about some more tactical stuff on the fireground. I know our next episode or two, we're definitely gonna feature some like tactical situations. Start talking about that. Again, we're always looking for the people who are experts in some of the stuff. So if you have some expertise in a certain field, we'd love to hear from you. Maybe be able to feature you. But
as I said before, they're out there. And
they are out
find
there.
them.
We will find them
somewhere on the horizon.
So
we will find an expert.
The unfortunate part of this is that Barry can't really be a part of the conversation.
Yeah,
because he just doesn't go to fires.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if anyone else here had a third alarm fire their first shift, but
oh shit, that's right. Well,
'twas I.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I don't know if I remember that.
Third alarm assignment, so it sounds cooler.
Oh, you know what?
Is, yeah.
I actually now I do remember it.
Yeah,
I do remember it. Yeah.
I feel like a handful of guys or a decent amount of guys in our job have been fortunate enough to catch fires their first.
We
shift.
had a good run of there's probably like 5 or 6 guys that I can think of that are like of our era that all had like pretty.
The
good
guys that got hired with
shift.
me that went to I forget what group it was, probably group 3 because that's our fire group. But the guys that got hired with me, or 1 or 2 of them, went to that group and they caught a fire their first day too, which is maddening.
How long after you got on did we go to Van
I don't
Norden?
want to talk about it. A long time. We had a bunch of little stuff.
Yeah,
but it was like first like good fire. Van Norden was I think the following winter.
I remember texting you on the way to work, like talking shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, well, there's actually a fire right now. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then we got there, and they're like, oh.
I was like, get here, Barry.
Third alarm.
It's
shift
change. We're
I
going.
thought he was kidding. I thought he was kidding.
Actually, when I first got on, for whatever reason, my group, it took a while for me to like catch a real fire. But after that, it seemed like I'd caught like a lot of out-of-town work and everything like that. And I'm sure this wasn't made up on the spot, and it had been around for a long time. But, you know, my lieutenant would just kind of talk shit and give everybody hell and be like, yeah, this is Fire Factory 4. This is for Group 4, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was...
Fighting fourth.
Fighting fourth, man. Fire Factory 4.
It's funny.
So.
It's funny how they come in cycles. Like in our department, our group 3, for whatever reason, they burn twice as much as the rest of the groups.
Yeah.
Now I'm on group 3, so we won't have any fires.
Yeah, you'll never go to a fire again.
Yeah.
Sucks for you.
So I got to pick up overtime with those guys.
So to clarify, when we're going to talk about our first fires, is like we do a lot of almost fires. We do a lot of little fires. I'm talking about the first fire where you had to wear a face piece to preserve your life. Not a fire where you were in there with no mask on, overhauling on the 8th alarm or something. But like the first fire, you had to wear a face piece to survive in the building. Barry, you wanna start us off?
So there I was mopping the floors,
scrubbing the walls at 8 p.m.
doing my due diligence on the first day, and they struck the box for the address is escaping me. It's
50 Fallen Street.
Fallen Street, yeah, it's right off of Waterhouse. And initially, I was still, it was literally my first day, very much learning the ropes. So we all went down to the watch room, and I'm still grasping the concept of what's even going on, really. And it sounded like it was on I believe it's a tall, pretty tall. I believe it's 5 or 6 story building. There's no standpipes. It's within the kind of the Harvard Square district, so there's a lot of antiquated buildings that are grandfathered in. So as far as fire code, so there's no requirement for standpipes. That particular building is a very tough stretch. There's a lot of multiple stairwells.
It's a big building.
Yeah, so access was pretty difficult, and it ended up being up in the penthouse on top of the actual building. And once they got access, they reported heavy fire. So I was listening intently.
Engine 3, if you're not first, you're last.
Yeah. So not the best run card I've ever seen, but great place to be if you're there. So, listen intently, and then eventually, I remember one of the guys, he's like, this fucking kid's going to get a fire his first shift. And I was like, oh. I was like, it didn't even enter my, the realm of possibility. I was like, oh, really? Thinks I'm going to go there?
We're going to go.
And I ended up going. Again, by that point, the majority of the fire had been extinguished, lots of overhaul, but pretty extensive fire damage. And I learned right away that bringing an 8-foot pike pole inside a congested area is not the best idea. So I was turning around. I'm like, oh, sorry. And that tool was useless.
Yep, dude.
It's really funny.
That is meant for a roof to go down, in my opinion. Other than that, leave it alone.
Well,
it's not something they teach you.
No.
They don't tell you. They just grab a pike pole, and you're like, all right, this is a pike pole.
Well, obviously, for our civil service test, right, it's they, make that rig where you're pulling down the ceiling, right? And it's that's supposed to be essentially a pike pole, right? And so you get right in there with my pike pole. It's no.
Yeah, no.
You can't do anything with that for
you can't.
I mean, if you had 12-foot ceilings, that's the only thing
you can if you
use,
have a variety of sizes, but carrying an 8-footer into a
building
where
rough one.
ceilings are 8 feet. That's
wasn't the best decision I've ever made, but at that time I really didn't have any decisions made, so I just grab a tool.
Isn't it wild? All right, so regardless of the amount of fires people have been to, think about the difference in your perception of a fire ground from your very first fire to your most recent fire. Yeah. Isn't it
completely different?
You look back and you're like, what the fuck was I even doing?
I had no my first fire, I had no perception of actions of individual companies, what the expectations were. I was literally just doing whatever my lieutenant told me to do, and just trying not to look
even going in the building and being I don't know that I was totally oriented to everything. I don't know I had the bandwidth to perform the job that I was trying to perform, and at the same time remember every turn I had taken or door I'd gone by, or you know what I mean. It's staggering, and it doesn't take a long time to get a lot better at it. Just a couple fires in, you start feeling a lot better. But from your first fire to your most recent one, at least for me, is a crazy difference in just my mindset.
You're no longer now you understand the standards and expectations, and you can start taking action versus waiting to be prompted for.
I just feel you're just much more methodical as well. Like when you go in, like nobody's ever really experienced everything, even if you've had 100 fires, but I feel like every fire you go to, you get a little bit more methodical and like, okay, this is happening, I'm going to do this, and this is happening, I'm going to do this. And
once you're really comfortable in your specific role and understanding like the standards and expectations of, whether you're an engine company guy, ladder company guy, squad guy, it makes it so much easier because where you're where you fall in the deck of cards, in that kind of like the orchestra, I guess, of like making this whole thing happen.
I think so we're talking about our first fires, but my most recent fire was I don't know, a month ago or so, but it was mutual aid, which oftentimes doesn't lead to much. We've been pretty fortunate with what we've caught in the last year, mutual aid, but we had the first line into the second floor. It was a fire that started in the kitchen of the first floor and went to the porches and up the stairwell. And I just remember afterwards, actually, I had a conversation with my lieutenant, and I was like, man, that was like, every time has been better, but that was like the first time I got there and was like very, very clear-headed about everything that I was doing, and like going through, and I was like, we did grab the horseshoe, went up to say, like, it was just like, it felt like everything flowed. I was very methodical. I wasn't like really questioning anything. It was and it wasn't a tough fire, so it wasn't like a lot to question, but it was just unbelievable thinking back to like 5-10 fires ago versus, even not even just like our first fire, but first fire is just a lot of you get it done, and then you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, get the adrenaline dump. You know what I mean? It's what we try to avoid, but which brings up my one of my captains. He always recommends it to guys. If you can, listen to the Boston Scanner. And he's like, these guys show up to massive fires, and you hear them calling off on the radio, and it sounds like, they're just taking out the trash. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. They're as calm as they would be as if they were taking out the trash. It's not. Yeah. And obviously, on your first day, your first job, a couple jobs in, whatever it is, you don't have that. That's a skill that you
learn skill.
Yeah, it's a learned skill. It's, you know what I mean? And every time you're put in that situation, we spoke about this before, like where you had the opportunity with a few close fires to build on those skills and link them together, whereas if they're 3-4 years apart, you might be like, I remember last time I was going to do this instead, or I felt this particular way, which led me to do this, Right. But
I feel like that, like you hear the people that get on scene and start screaming, and it almost immediately like destroys your confidence. You know what I mean?
It just gets you. It brings everybody's level up, and it's not good.
There's nothing positive that becomes of freaking out on a call.
Yeah.
You can keep that on the inside.
Right.
It's a high acuity situation, but nothing positive lens from.
There's like a level of like being worked up in adrenaline that puts you in a nice zone of focus, and then there's like being just like oversaturated.
So the other thing is a lieutenant of mine had said, you may come across a fire when you're in the ambulance, and you might be first on scene, and you might pull over and go, oh man. You basically, and I think we already touched on this, when you had talked about your radio communications before a few episodes ago, and it was just, he just said take a breath and calmly state what's going on.
Yeah.
Because if anyone detects any hint of, like, not urgency, because you need a sense of urgency, but that hint of, like, excitement, when you'll get everybody else ramped up, you know what I mean? And it's just a bad way to start the call.
So, it's a cascade effect.
That's it. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a cascade effect. And there's, like, little things you can do with that, too. So I know I don't do it all the time, but when I've had the radio, I'll take a piece of tape, put it on the dash with just, type of structure, stories, what I see, like just like not writing it down ahead of time, but writing down like those are the three things. Like, okay, if for some reason I was off first in a fire, like, okay, I have a 3-story wood frame fire showing from the second floor, and then you can report that, and it just kind of it takes that thought process away from you for the second because you have it laid out in front of you, and like I feel like even just having that a little bit will take you down. I should do it every time. I don't, but
the acronym that I feel fortunate I've had the radio a good bit, not nearly as much as some people, but I just remember there's conditions, actions, needs.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
what conditions are you presented with? What actions? What are your immediate actions that you're taking? And what do you potentially need from incoming companies? And as long
Everything
as,
is on fire.
Yeah.
Send us everyone.
building's on fire. Gonna try and put it out. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
It's not working. Please send more people. But yeah, as long as you can accurately articulate the conditions that you're immediately presented with, the actions that your company's taking. Each department has their standardized SOGs or SOPs, so there should be an understanding of what the initial actions for varying companies should be. But if you're taking any special actions, you're adjusting on the fly based on operational conditions. Like communicate that to the people. Like you have a dead hydrant, something that incoming companies need to know, and then needs. Right? Like we need, we have a dead hydrant. We're gonna work around it. We need an incoming company to lay in for us.
Yeah. We need a line to this floor.
Yeah.
We need a search on this, whatever it may be. And I think having SOGs helps with that because you might not have to. Some of those needs you won't have to communicate right off the bat because you have people that know that that's the kind of their initial assignment unless something changes, and then it leaves you more open for those like curveballs that you're like, okay, now we don't have water. Like, what do we do here? We need somebody else to lay in or whatever the case is. There's speaking of like being calm, I want to find it and I can't remember what city it was. I believe it was in Mass, and there was a deputy or district chief that called off with a fire, and I don't remember exactly what he had, but he was just like, dump the city. Like very calm, but just like dump the city. We need everyone here.
Really?
And I want to find it. It's pretty well known. They reference him. If you follow some of the whacker pages around Boston, he's been referenced. It might have, well, it wasn't Boston, but it might have been one of the surrounding cities. But
Where was your first fire, John?
I think it was.
he said it when he was 6 years old.
Yeah,
Ended up in the juvenile fire starters program.
It was in the woods. It was,
I used to have black hair until I set my first fire, and now I have red hair.
They'll never find me if I don't change it.
good. Yeah, it's only recently been cool to be a ginger, so
You've always been cool to me.
just let the jokes keep
I
flowing.
hope it stays that way. My kid is a ginger.
Yeah, dude.
Man, fiery, like that Reese's bag.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous. Looks like a freaking pumpkin.
He's gonna be a spark plug, man. No question about it.
Yeah, he already is.
Yeah, no. So I think it was like February. So and it was actually I think it was February. It was a nice day, but it was obviously a little bit on the colder side, but it was like really like good conditions to work in. Like it was sunny out, but I shouldn't say it was good conditions to work in at all because the wind was blowing like 60 miles an hour like that day.
Oh,
we
it's always
had
tough.
Yeah, so we had a big wind-driven fire, and we think that it started outside actually on the service wire and worked its way in, and it just sat there and cooked for hours and hours. It was on Prospect Street in Stoughton, and we get there, and we show up, and there's just like this light wispy smoke coming out of the eaves up top, and it was a large 2.5-story wood frame building, but it was a 3-family, and one of my good friends actually lived there, and I didn't know. I mean, I say good friend. She's been a friend of mine for a long time. We still see each other very regularly out and about, and all of a sudden I'm geared up. I'm walking to, and I'm like, Amanda? I'm like, what are you doing? And
Suddenly he's just like,
yeah, no, it was obviously, she was wicked upset. It was honestly like she was just like a terrible day. And then as the day went on, it just got worse because that building had complete 3D communication. There was chases running up, and obviously it was an old balloon frame building.
oh, so with wind, it went everywhere.
Yeah, this thing, that fire got pushed around so my first assignment was I went to the basement. We cleared the basement. There was some light wispy smoke down there. And then we cleared that very quickly. And then I grabbed a couple of tools and I went into the first floor. And the ceiling it was just a drop ceiling. The drop ceiling had collapsed. So we went in, moved some stuff out of the way. and now we're starting to pull down the ceiling above that, which was, you know, probably like a 7 or 7.5 foot ceiling, and it was just gypsum board. But it was like, well, I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was whatchamacallits, I screwed this up last time. The horsehair plaster. And the
plaster
laths,
and lath. Yeah.
Plaster and lath. And so pulling that, and obviously that makes a mess. I don't know how much of that stuff, you know, you guys have gotten into, you've demoed in your life. It was like, you know,
Gets everywhere.
Gets everywhere.
My entire house.
Yeah. So we, you know, it never got like darkened down there. We never sprayed water on it till later, but it had cooked through like all these bays, and just everything was like charred and burnt. And then it went up a chase. It went all the way across the room, up a chase, and then the second floor was where it took off. And it just absolutely, like the guys got up there pretty quickly, and it was, but yeah, I mean, there was already so much oxygen going. As soon as we got in there, it started like really getting bad.
Where did it start? Did it start on that first floor, or did you say it started up?
So we think that, I think we concluded that it had started outside at the service wire.
Oh, really?
And because we got there and the service wire was just whipping, and then it was burnt off. It actually burnt off right there, and so we saw and it was aluminum siding. So it was weird because the siding was like still intact mostly, and then once we ripped it down, it was just like where it like basically torched through and just continued to slowly.
So it probably would have like smoldered for hours if it wasn't a
Hours.
day of 60-mile-an-hour winds. You know what I mean?
Or it might not even have started.
Right.
But yeah, obviously that, you know, it was, I mean, who knows how old that service wire was, and you know what I mean? So it's just, but that, interestingly though, we dumped, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of gallons on it, or like close to 1 million. We had 3 ladder pipes on it.
Jesus.
The water source, you know, we had guys tapped into the same feed, which sucked because we were uphill, and so I don't think anybody knew. I mean, I think we had like 40 pounds of pressure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was bad. So we ended up having, you know, companies, you know, pumping hydrants,
pumping.
and we had to have someone go and lay into, you know, further down the street, down the hill, and, you know, get water coming up so that we could, you know, feed Brockton's ladder. And it, you know, here's something too to talk about. These guys knowing their, you know, knowing their towns and neighborhoods, and just being heads up guys. We actually took the ladder through somebody else's like back. They had a big back driveway, and they drove it up, and we were actually, you know, hitting it from like the other side, like the other property. So it wasn't just from the street. So we had like really 3 good angles that we were dumping on this thing.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't get to the seat of the fire. They had ordered everybody out of the building because we'd been working on this thing for like what seemed like forever. And you know, everything got vented, everything got done. They just couldn't get in there and get it out. They ordered everybody out. They just kept dumping water on it, and then we're all just standing out there, and the entire porch system collapsed.
Yeah.
And so that was crazy, because now at this point, you know, building inspectors like no one's going back in there ever.
Right.
Not even after we put this thing out. And that house was, we had a demolition company that night to come in and take the thing down.
Oh, it's unbelievable how fast they are.
Yeah.
Like we had, I wasn't on the fire, but we had one in our city a few years ago. Big building on a main street, like huge building, and it was a parking lot. Like 24 hours later.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like the house collapsed.
Yeah.
They just came in and just see ya.
Yeah.
Like it's a write-off.
And to get back to your point, I was like a man on a mission. You know, I was working on it all the time. It's in great shape. Not that I don't work out now, but I was like really like, so I like put it in full throttle and absolutely smoked myself. But I wanted to do everything, so I did. But I can just remember like not having that calm sense to just go in and work. You know, I was like, I could just remember like burning through all my energy very quickly and having that adrenaline dump fatigue and just being like, dude, you redlined too soon.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's like, part of that not getting super worked up is also air consumption.
Yeah.
Like when you're worked up, even if you're not working hard, your heart's racing faster and everything else. Like you just burn through so much quicker. And you can be in the best of shape, and it will kick your ass.
Oh yeah.
Fairly quickly.
Yep.
If you're using muscle instead of technique, or whatever the case is, like you can get smoked pretty quick.
Yeah, and just not being familiar with like operating under heavy exertion on like a closed circuit system.
Yeah. I did a row one time at my gym, and I did it on air, and like I was obviously like gassed, right?
Yeah.
And afterwards, somebody was like, "Why are you gassed? Isn't it? Like, you have oxygen on." I'm like, No,
it's air.
No, it's regular air, and it's regulated. So if I take too deep a breath, it doesn't necessarily like catch up being like a bigger dude. It's being on air is a total game changer.
Yeah.
That's why they have all those trainers and stuff.
That's why I have
the
practice
blast
doing that.
blast masks and stuff like that.
That's why
I
if you ask a lot of people like personal training things, and a lot of people say, "Oh, I practice like being on air because
I just wear my COVID mask now.
Yeah,
it's like 9 layers.
Yeah, six different COVID masks.
Per Dr. Fauci, we need a triple mask, so that's what I've been doing.
Good for you.
Even in my own house.
Yeah, way to train.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Where did you show up in the assignment?
So I was on the ambulance. So we beached it down the street. And then I walked up, and it was during the day, so we had day staff. So one of the lieutenants grabbed me and my partner that day. And then we kind of maintained crew integrity until, he got pulled off to help with the ladder operations.
Yep.
And then that's kind of where he kind of hung out. And so then I was just kind of chasing around my lieutenant, who was, also like a younger guy on the job. Well, I mean, he's not as young as I, but he's a younger, fit guy.
Yeah.
And I
Can definitely hang.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I was trying to hang with him, and we both did a lot of work. We were both in the basement on the first floor. We were both on the ladder. We both had the chainsaw going. We both
That's
did,
awesome.
Yeah, we did a ton of stuff.
That's really cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and then
is your lieutenant on the ambulance, or is he just with the?
So we have a lieutenant that is on each engine.
Yep.
And then he was on day staff. He was the EMS lieutenant at the time, which now it's not even a position anymore. We have a deputy chief of EMS, just so he's like, top of the command.
So I know we talked about before our like daily staffing. So for you guys, who does so you don't run an officer on the ambulance?
No.
Who do you fall under, like in your SOG when you show up to fight? Do you fall under the engine lieutenant? Is that who?
Yeah, this is one of the things that's kind of one of the things that it's exactly what we want to talk about on this show is how, if you backstep your entire career, it's like you should know everything like down pat. You should have all these. So for us, it's like if we show up on the ambulance, if we're even in town, if we don't have a patient in back of the ambulance, there's so many things that could go. You could, be backing up a line if that's what command asks of you.
Right.
Or you could be interior search, It just, it always depends what's going on.
Yes, it's really, very versatile.
Yeah. It's just a fluid thing. So there's no SOG really that outlines that.
So you
to
guys,
my knowledge.
So you guys will operate independently as a 2-man crew, but without an officer.
Yeah, I don't want to say independently.
But they could say, I want you two to go do the search, and you're going to go do the search by yourself.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily being tied to an officer.
Yeah.
No.
They're kind of like needs
awesome.
of the incident commander.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's kind of like you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we have an officer, even though it's a 2-man. Our squad's a 2-man company. So we have an officer, but yeah, it's essentially kind of depends on when you show up, where
Fill
you
in
show
holes,
up, what's going
what
on.
needs to be done.
Yeah. So, and that was the difference in my last fire that I went to, and I had already spoke about this a little bit, and I was on the pump, and I was glad to be, because man, it's like nice to get that out of the way, knowing that you can get there and pump a fire and hold your own, and be worth your salt as a pump operator. Even though it's a really technical job, if you get into some of these big ones, and I would still have some issues with that. I think I'd have to pull some guys in and get some help. Depending. Anyhow, the difference in that fire was that we had an MVA with a girl who had I think it was a pretty bad break on her leg. And, one of the guys, opted to bring her into Boston. And she probably could have went local, but it was like, it was kind of like, if it's worse than just a simple break, then, she'll be in the best place to get care. And so we went. And then they're on their way, and then we get the call for the fire, And so it was like we show up there right away, down 2 guys.
Yeah.
And it's at night, so we don't have the day staff either. Obviously, the day staff's going to make their way, but now those guys are 20 minutes out. They're not 3 minutes up the street.
Right.
So we show up with 9 and immediately short-staffed, because when we got on there, we, I think I've already spoken about this one, but yeah. So we were short-staffed. We 100% had a victim to rescue. So there was it was just we were
Put you
doing
through your paces.
Yeah, we were doing a lot with a little, and that was what it was. But yeah,
that's how my old department was too.
Yeah.
They did recalls, so when the ambulance transported, they would recall 1 to the station if they were running short. Just otherwise, you literally were running with a 2-man engine company and a shift commander.
Yeah.
And then that changed. That changed to only certain hospitals. They did the recalls. Like if you went to Boston, they would recall 1. Or it used to be like if you went to Boston, they recalled 2 because you're going to be gone for so long.
Yeah.
But all those rules kind of changed with one of the chiefs. But same thing. You'd show up if the ambulance was on a call, and there you'd show potentially with a total of 3 people, and 1 being the shift commander. So it's just you get put in a bad situation with not a lot of people, and you kind of got to figure it out.
Yeah. So
Is what it is.
cool heads prevail.
Yeah.
Just keep working through it.
Yeah,
That's all.
absolutely. So I had I'm going to tell 2 stories because one's just kind of going to. What's that? Yeah, one's going to kind of just piggyback off you. Is I was the guy for what should have been my first real fire on a transport to the hospital.
Oh no.
Yeah. So we ran.
This was your first job?
Yeah, it's my first job.
Okay.
So we had. Do you guys remember? I mean, it was 10, 11 years ago now. The Halloween blizzard. We had a blizzard on Halloween one year.
Oh, all the ice. No.
No, it was like
probably gone.
Yeah, it was
I was
just like a
probably-
straight up blizzard. It was 2011.
I was in
No.
Texas.
Yeah,
I remember
so
in Texas.
blizzard. Overnight we were smoked. So my old job was not a super busy one. And we ran like I don't want to exaggerate, but I'm pretty sure it was like 13 calls overnight, which is a shitty night.
That's a bad night.
And it was all medicals. And so it was like we made shift at 8:00. So it was like maybe like 7:40 or something like that in the morning. I was working with probably the second most senior guy on the department that night. And one of the younger guys came in early, like they do, and offered to relieve us. And so this guy, Brian, was like, no, I'm all set. I'm good. So a call had come in, right? A call had come in. He was in the station. He was like, I'll take that for you if you want. Brian was like, oh, I'm good. I was like, well, I haven't even been here a year. If the guy that's been here for 30 years is going to go, then I'm going to go. So we went for like hip pain at a nursing home. Ended up being like a broken hip. And while we're putting her on the stretcher, they strike a box for fire, like multiple calls. And the guys on the engine just literally looked at me and went, drop the bags, and like took off. And I was like, awesome. So then obviously it's a second alarm. I don't remember if it went to third alarm or what, but I would have been, second due to that fire.
Yeah.
And instead we ran another 6 back-to-back medical calls, including going after that transport to pick up the homeowner,
Yeah.
take them to the hospital. So I literally got
had to go to the fire.
see the fire scene, And
That's
the senior
terrible.
guy was funny because he was like, he said I was sulking so hard my like shoulders were touching, and I was like, yeah, I was pretty sad. I was a pretty sad pup. So
That's
what
rough.
should have been my first fire. It should have been my first fire. I was on an ambulance transport. That day I vowed that I will never do that again. Obviously I have no choice.
Yeah.
My first legitimate fire though, I had a couple like in that first year that were like, I had like a little mattress and like one that was like a just total exterior operations fire. But our first legit one was actually with that same guy, Brian. And it was like 2 a.m. It was a single family house, pretty good sized single family house. Reported fire inside. The first due engine called off with fire showing, and they took a line into the front door. We got there. We operated a quint. So we actually, our SOGs for like water supply was we actually laid the line, and so they went straight to the fire, operated off tank water.
How much water do you have in that?
Oh man, you're testing me now. I want to say it
never
was
knew if they were-
350, but it might have been 500.
I never knew with the quint like how much water.
I wanna
You
say-
guys have quints, John?
No, the guys. Everybody is. Obviously, the conversation comes up from time to time, and everybody's just like, no.
The problem is like they're great apparatus if you staff them appropriately, but you need to staff them with an engine and a ladder complement of people.
Yeah,
You can't.
And then
You know
what
what I
it,
mean?
what it
Otherwise,
ends
they're
up.
just one or the other anyway.
You're right. And then what it ends up turning into is like, oh, well, we can just send this on the call, and then it turns
Put 2
into
people on this, yeah.
a manpower killer.
Yeah,
as Some
exactly.
people, you know what I mean. So everybody's staring away from that, even though, the concept is nice, but you can't.
Yeah, they
It's
have
super
utility.
versatile if you have
Yeah.
the right amount of people, but otherwise
Yeah.
you're either an engine or a truck. And
It's probably
you know.
good for smaller communities.
I
Where
think
they
it-
want the benefit.
I think it is for like my community. I think it worked out well, other than just not being, being too big to get in some areas, but
they don't have the finances to, maybe they can.
yeah, or like
That's the
you couldn't
point.
take
That's the
that.
point, though. Is like it's like, oh, this is cheaper, and we can do 2 things with it, but we're still gonna have 2 people do it, and it's
Right.
like, and so you end up they're like, well, look, because we don't need to run that other truck, and we don't need to staff more people, and then so it turns into like what looks good to the town is 0% about our safety. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like that's
and that's
Yeah.
up to the chiefs to articulate and communicate to the
Yeah.
town
Yeah, I don't want to get
administration.
too much into the politics, but
Yeah.
no,
It-
you're right.
it can-
but
it
it's,
can
No,
be
not
a-
even from a political standpoint. You could be like,
for
you
me,
know,
just a
you could be
safety
like, well, we're
standpoint,
saving, instead of getting a new engine and a new ladder, we're spending, 750,000, but we're saving, 500.
Right.
And you might be able to. I mean, I'm obviously not even close to being a chief officer, but you
Right.
might be able to communicate to them like we could divert those, into hiring additional personnel to make
Right.
this resource that we now have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
viable.
potentially it'd be
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
The other problem, like in that particular spot, was they got a new quint, and the new quint was a little bit bigger and required 2 people to take it out. Which, when you have the staffing of only like if you're running full and the ambulance is gone, you only have 1 person there, and if you're running short and the ambulance is gone, you potentially have no people there. It kind of just any truck is useless with no people. So
Right.
but anyway, so our SOG was that we laid into the first 2 engines. So we dropped a feeder line, I dropped that guy Brian at the hydrant, drove up, he made the hydrant, and while he was making the hydrant, I pulled the LDH off and made the connection into the engine, and then we ended up taking a line around the back side of the house. The first 2 engine had come in, I believe, tried to make a turn towards the kitchen, couldn't quite make it all the way into the kitchen. It was a pretty big house, and then had fire like going up the stairs. So I think they were holding the staircase. I'm not exactly sure what was going on that side of the house, but we went around back. We had fire showing from the first story window, pretty heavy, and we did. This was kind of before transitional attack was like a buzzword, but we did transitional attack. Essentially, we hit that fire coming out of the window, forced entry into the side door, and then went in and made a turn to the kitchen. It was a lot of like decent lessons learned in that fire because we had water supply issues. So it was a hoarder house,
Oh man.
like pretty bad hoarder house. We had water supply issues, so we kept trying to like kind of make the push. We got in the kitchen, extinguished the fire, it kept like flaring up. We were trying to make a push to really like, get to the seat of it. And every time we started making a push, we would kind of dump pressure, and then it would start coming up on us, so we had to keep backing out. Turned out to be good because a giant hole had burned through the floor into the basement. So, crawling in that direction had a big hole in the floor that we would have found, hopefully not by falling
the
through
wrong
it.
way.
But I think it's funny that your lesson was on pike poles because we extinguished the fire in the kitchen. Another funny part of this is I had a little fire in a restaurant that I really didn't do anything in, didn't go on air, so I don't count it. But I was getting ready to go in on air, and a senior guy came up and was like, "Hey, can I grab that nozzle?" And I was like, "Okay." I handed it to him. He goes, "Never fucking give up the nozzle." If I can put his face, someone went into the fire, and I ended up never getting in the fire.
That's awful.
So I had been in there for a few minutes, and I get tapped on the shoulder by this guy. He's like, "Hey, we're relieving you. Take off." And I was like, "Yeah, no, not happening." And he was like, "No, seriously." And I was like, "Yeah, you're not fucking getting this from me. I'm not out of air yet."
Yeah,
and he was
right.
like, "Get out of the building now." And I was like, "Okay." I didn't even realize like the other guy, my partner Brian, had already like gone. They
That's
relieved
funny.
him. So anyway, after we did that, changed packs, and they had us go back in to start pulling ceilings. And I actually have a picture of it here. I got called a lawn shepherd for a while
What?
because I took at least a
jeez.
10-foot pike pole into a residential structure. And
Now I don't feel so bad.
You should.
I also do have another great.
it's funny. I didn't even realize that was going to be your thing. So I was trying to like pull ceilings, hitting this thing side. It was a mess.
Where's your manger?
I know, right? So the other thing that's crazy is like this was after they made the initial attack. We put the fire out in the kitchen. Obviously,
Just
that's
start calling you
still
Joseph.
venting fire.
Joseph.
Yeah, I got called a lawn shepherd. Dude, I was new, and so like I saw this picture and I like shared it, and then people were like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I was floating fire. I was just doing
So
a thing."
another, God bless this dude's heart, but not yours. I guess yours too, Joseph, the lawn shepherd. Come hitherto to my manger. All right.
I just have more sophisticated robes. Also,
So,
a plastic helmet. Which
my
just
first fire.
is gross.
He's since retired. Great guy. But we were leaving, and he's like, you can just leave your tool. He's like, leave your tool in the scene, and another company will just come pick it up. And I was like, I'm new, but that doesn't sound like it checks out. I hope you know who I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
And I turned to our former lieutenant. I was like, "Hey, this is what I was told." And he was like, "Don't do that. Don't do that. Just take it out with you, please."
Who was it?
I can believe it.
Who was it?
It's Paul Finnegan.
Oh, hey, you mean Schmal Krennigan?
Yeah. Just
Small-
believe
that
it.
that makes
Small
sense.
Schminnigan.
Bless
thing-
his heart.
the
Bless
thing-
his heart.
thing
He's
was
like,
he-
yeah, no. He's like, you just put the tool down, and another company, as they come in, they'll grab it and use it. And I was like, one, that sounds dangerous.
Yeah.
Two, I'm gonna run this by my lieutenant, and
The thing was, he wasn't actually
Sandy,
even fucking with
yeah,
you.
Sandy Cello,
Sandy Cello.
Sandy Cello was like, no,
Please, dear God,
No.
don't do that.
no.
Yeah.
Actually, in all my senseless rambling, I forgot to tell you guys about the lesson that I had learned.
No,
What was your lesson? Yeah,
I
what
thought
was
your
your
lesson was like, don't hit the red line too soon. But
Well, dude,
second lesson, let's go for it.
in the and that was like I wasn't planning on that. It was just because I think I was bringing up the rear on something that you guys had talked about. But no, I set up a ladder outside because we couldn't get in like to the eaves, and so I had set the ladder up over this giant rhododendron bush, and it was at like a weird angle, but I'm like, I'll be able to walk this, and then I put it like into the building. I didn't go like all the way up to where I was like I wouldn't have been able to work off the ladder to get up there and like pull everything down. But so I'm up there with with a Halligan just trying to break everything down, pull everything down, and then the entire fascia board collapsed. It just dropped. It was like it was heavy. It was long, and it ended up being like 18 feet long worth of fascia. It just burned away.
Shit's way heavier than you think. You look at it and you're like,
Yeah.
how did you get hurt from that? And then you like
Yeah.
carry it from Home Depot and you're like,
That's how.
this
Yeah,
is-
exactly.
This is so heavy.
So, and obviously it was like the original fascia, and it had been covered. It wasn't even rotted, so it was like just older, solid, heavy wood. And so that came down. It it was like axial load, like hit me directly on top of my helmet, like cranked my neck. I was holding on to the ladder. The ladder went one way, I went the other, and then I just remember like tucking and somersaulting like 10 or 12 feet down into this giant rhododendron bush. So the lesson is, if there's a rhododendron bush,
Aim for it.
aim for it.
Yeah.
Use
I
it.
remember
Put your
any
ladder
soft
over it.
surface.
I remember now that you had told me
Yeah.
that you fell off a ladder.
I'm
Yeah,
telling
John.
you,
John actually only sets ladders up over bushes now.
dude. I'm telling you right now.
He's like,
I-
no bush here. Sorry, I can't put a ladder here for you.
it caught me like a glove, and I actually like rolled it. I rolled into the fall, and then I rolled like backwards off the rhododendron bush. Now the entire like fireground stopped. Not like everybody was running over, and I'm just like, I'm okay, you know.
That was awesome.
I
Never
mean-
have I appreciated a healthy, good-sized bush more
Dude,
than this.
I'm telling you, I like. So obviously they demoed the house, and the bush was still there, and I was just kind of like,
You should have dug it up and brought it
dude,
to your house.
I was like,
Saved your
I
life.
was thinking about it, or at least going to get a part of it and like regrowing it, because I was just like, wow, that thing, that like
Saved your
literally,
life.
yeah.
You could have been seriously.
Oh no, absolutely,
Yeah,
probably.
you probably would
would've
have been fucked up. If
I
you
mean,
just had,
broken
like,
back
straight
or
up heart.
something. I would have
Yeah.
fell on my pack. I don't know.
My
It
luck,
would've
I would
sucked.
have like had my lung pierced by a random rogue branch or something like that.
Yeah.
You are. So
I'm not. Don't. If you say it, we're fighting MMA style on camera.
You're not.
I know.
I
what you're
just
gonna
don't
say.
know how. This is one of my things with Will.
Here's the thing.
Like, I don't know how
Son of a bitch.
he made it through like the shittiest years of Iraq and Afghanistan. Not a scratch.
I know.
And just
Here's the thing, man. I'm not actually accident prone, which is what you were gonna say. I
I'm
just
just
had like a
concerned-
bad stretch of like 2 years.
I'm just concerned about your safety.
I broke
as a
my leg
friend.
playing hockey on
I
shit
know, it was
ice, and then I had a piece of a bow fly off and take out my eye.
Yeah,
It
and then
happens.
he sends me a picture
My fav-
recently. He's like, ever sneeze, full draw, and sends me a picture of the arrow like snapped in half and all this stuff. I'm like, dude, retire. Just bought a brand new bow. I'm like, return it. You still have the tags.
still have
We
time.
still time.
I remember when you called me. I think you were in the ambulance.
I did. I
when
was
you-
fan. So
when you broke your leg.
quick backstory is I was 8 months into my probationary year with Cambridge Fire Department, and playing a hockey game, I hit a divot in the ice and kicked the board and shattered my ankle and my leg.
Yeah, I remember Barry filling me on it.
And I
the whole thing.
was panicked that I was going to lose my job
Yeah.
because I obviously didn't have sick time.
Right.
I was sitting next to my girlfriend, then wife, and I was like, I gotta go. Will needs me.
Dude, seriously though, credit like Barry. My wife showed up, and then Barry showed up.
So, fun fact, aside from the whole, like,
You can
oh,
squeeze
go
my
get-
hand if it hurts,
aside,
Will.
No,
Yeah.
aside from the whole, like, hey, brother, I literally went into the lobby at MGH. I was like, my brother broke his leg. They just let me in.
Did they really? That's awesome.
And then his wife, who I didn't know until after the fact, doesn't like being hugged, and I'm a big hugger.
Oh, boy.
I'm like,
oh yeah, my wife's like
Kelly,
a
bring
big
it in.
introvert.
Yeah.
and she's just like these big hugs, and she like it's not that she like doesn't like, she just like makes her uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was a wild night because I had to drive my truck home after that because I didn't want to leave it at the rink.
Which leg did you break? The left one?
Yeah, so I was good to drive.
That's good. I broke my left leg when I was a kid.
I've only broken one. If anybody can guess this, I've only broken one bone in my life. Guess which bone?
Your back.
No, not my pinkies.
Nope.
Oh, your weird ass pinkies.
Not my pinkies. Guess which bone?
I have no idea. Your pelvis.
Your skull.
I want it to be something crazy.
No, my middle finger.
Oh my god, that's lame. So
I got it stuck in a solid oak door on a
That's a real
school
cool
field
story.
trip.
super.
They had to
cool.
extricate Barry from the door.
So the also fun fact that break was my first broken bone. My whole life,
Again.
never broke a bone.
All those jumps,
Yeah, head injuries, lots of head injuries.
Oh, yeah.
Concussed.
No broken
Concussed.
bones. I guess I shouldn't say I'm completely accident prone. I did get hurt at a fire, the restaurant I was telling you about, because I didn't go interior. Well, I did go interior, like after he put the fire out, and it was a kitchen of a restaurant.
You were hurting all the sheep, and they just stepped.
Yeah, there was like nothing going on, and I came out and I was adjusting the lights because it was starting to get dark. And actually, I was on. You know who I was with on this? This was when Schmeil Click Boffman was on my old department. he worked there for a little before he came over.
He's a good person.
Yeah, he's a good dude. So I went to adjust the light, and I had grease on my boots, and I fucking slipped right off the step at the top of the engine.
Oh, that's miserable.
Landed on the ground. I like looked up. There were like 2 people that had been eating dinner in the restaurant sitting there, and I was like, all right, this is gonna hurt. So I like stood up like nothing happened. I walked over. The first person I saw was the chief, and I was like, nope, not telling him. And so I went in, and this guy Kenny was in the building. He was a lieutenant, and I was like, hey, LT, I think I broke my leg. And he was like, then go fucking tell the chief. And I was like, fuck. So I did, and I had to go to the hospital, and I was out for like 2 months. I didn't actually break it. I tore all the ligaments, though.
Jeez.
That's the same foot I did end up breaking, though.
That's okay.
So now it's all metal. I'm good to go.
I've tripped in front of a large group of people.
Yeah.
It was when we had all the again in Lawrence, when they had all the gas fires, and then the rest of the day
I remember.
we were getting calls for like, there's like
I remember this.
wisping smoke out of the manholes, and I charged the 4-inch and like turn around and do something, and there's like all these cars on like Land Boulevard.
It was the intersection at the Museum of Science.
Oh, God.
So there were a few people there.
Yeah, and just there goes Barrey, wham! I stood up and I was like,
Do you have to?
Fuck,
You have
you
to
gotta
stand up
own
like
it.
you didn't even
You gotta
get
own
hurt.
it.
It's all part of the show,
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah, you gotta stand up like it didn't even hurt.
yeah, it did hurt.
What else do you do?
Just gotta own it. Just be,
Just sit there and cry.
Yeah, just cry from embarrassment more than like your pride is a lot more hurt than your body is.
I'll never see those people again.
No.
No, but
You're burned in
Instagram
their
has
brain,
you on
though.
there forever.
I'm sure.
Somewhere.
You're burned into their brain, Barry.
Yeah. Do you know they still right now we're telling this story and they're like
I'm
sitting
a
with a bunch of
professional.
friends. It's like you should have seen this time this asshole firefighter tripped over his own line. It happens.
Yeah.
Happens to everybody.
I was oversaturated with the stress of the day.
There you go.
Yeah. There was a lot going on that day.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on. That's awesome. Some good fires.
Yeah, have some laughs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have some laughs.
I think the thing is like you can take a lesson away from every single fire you go to. Always you can take a lesson away. Like
Always
whether it's
something
like
to take away.
where you positioned your vehicle or what you did while you were inside or like, did you not control the door and you made conditions worse or you know what I mean? Like we talked this like going back to the failure episode. Nick, the failure episode.
There it is.
See it? It's floating.
Nick, can you see it?
Uh,
It's floating.
You do realize that I do that afterwards.
oh yeah. Well, I don't know.
Okay.
Whatever.
I can see it.
It's still
right
fun.
there.
It's still
It is-
fun to imagine.
It's still floating, actually. I should take that off now.
It'll be there for.
Oh, there it goes.
Great. Now it's got to fly away.
Butterfly. I don't even remember what it was. Oh, like the failure episode. It's not always that you like fail. It's just that you like are like, hey, like I could have done this better, or my actions did have this consequence. And I think, I mean, not only every fire, but even just pulling up to more everyday incidents. There's always some lesson that can be learned. And if you,
Absolutely.
I think it's a big part of like doing like after action reviews, whether you do them like, officially through the department or you have a chief that does them or you do them like intercompany. I know that every fire I've had, we've pretty much afterwards been like, hey, like we did this. Do you think we could have done this better? And sometimes it's good to like do it immediately. And then like 2 weeks later, be like, hey, now what do you like kind of process? Do you remember stuff? Because sometimes in that moment, the adrenaline, you don't, at least I don't remember exact steps. And then like 2 weeks later, I can actually
you can
recreate
piece it together a little bit, but
Yeah.
you'll never really know.
Yeah,
You know,
I've
you'll
always
really remember
quantified it as
everything.
games and reps. Right? Each fire is like you want to be good at the game.
Yeah.
And then all these struck boxes or whatever you're doing, pulling lines, apparatus positioning, those are all reps. Like whether you want to make it a good rep or a bad rep is up to you.
Yep.
And whether you want to learn, we've talked about as you said, failure and learning from it. But you can glean
Which
positive
is flying
things
around
from everything.
right now. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, every time we're like, man, all these special effects are really adding up.
Can't wait to get the bill from this episode.
I was gonna say they will be. Yeah, they will be. At them.
Wow, special effects.
Is it cheaper just to cut all of that and
Yeah.
like we never said it?
No, now it's too late.
Oh, okay.
If you're interested in being a sponsor, we now need one.
We were doing okay. This episode's putting us over the budget. On that note, though, we are shortly, if we don't already, we are shortly going to have some swag available. We are going to do some T-shirts, maybe some hats, different things. And is this a shameless money grab? Absolutely. No, it's not. We, on a side note, is we actually are investing a decent amount into this, trying to like have this done correctly with a legitimate producer who knows what he's doing. And if you haven't noticed that production value yet, shame on you. So
You will in episode 6. We got all this stuff flying around.
you will in episode 6. So when that comes available, hopefully you guys can take a look, and hopefully you guys will like some of it, and we can get it to you and help us kind of fund this going forward, because that's kind of the goal for that. But that's a side note. We don't have to talk about it. Just
I mean,
it's out there.
So like on a serious note, with the, if you choose to support us as far as sponsoring or buying our soon to be swag, like all that money goes into making. None of us are here to make a buck. We're all self-funded, just doing something that we believe in. So all that goes into paying for the production value and trying to build a better product for you guys.
The more interesting we can make it, I think the more we can get it spread, and the ultimate goal of reaching people and creating conversations and sharing knowledge. The bigger the network, the more the knowledge gets shared. So that's kind of our goal.
Just kind of broadening our
Yeah.
our ability to communicate and get out there and hopefully make the fire service community a little bit better.
Yeah.
So one T-shirt equals one like spiral in of video.
Yeah.
I don't. I think it's probably more T-shirts.
10
than that.
T-shirts equals one spiral.
So that was awesome. So new segment, spinning off of a segment from a couple episodes ago. We did the training tips and tricks. We are gonna add in there tactical tips and tricks. So what we are trying to accomplish with this segment is tips and tricks on the actual fireground. So there are a plethora of different things people do that are go-tos, and some of these people that see fires or rescues or whatever it is over time notice that these different things are, that's how you get all the New York hook, the Boston rake, the Halligan. It's people that have like realized, oh, these things work well. So what we want to do is we want to get people that can share some of those tips and tricks with us. So I put on Facebook something as simple as spiking the pike of a Halligan into the decking of a roof to create a step. That seems like it would be something everybody knows, but maybe it's not. So like talking about that would be good. So we had I'm just going to do one here today. We had Doug write us, and he said that before you even set the parking brake, see which way the truck rolls, know your grade, know where your water's going to go, specifically talking about like winter ice conditions, and is the truck in the best spot. And I like this one because there's a lot going on when you pull up to a fire scene, and it also depends on, if you're driving an engine, if you're driving a truck, if you're driving a quint, if you're driving the ambulance, you're not putting it right in the middle of the road. He said that the knowing the direction your like water runoff is going, he said that he talked about an incident where a ladder truck that was downhill of the first due pump in winter had actually, the ice got under the tires from the water runoff, and the truck slid down the hill.
Jeez.
Yeah. So
There's a lot of those regional conditions. I saw a couple years ago, in warmer parts of the country, they might not have to consider like those types of, hey, like where is your water going because it's going to freeze. Right. Even things like I saw a couple years ago, there's a picture of apparatus. There was an aerial apparatus that was parked on the lawn, and they had the outriggers out on the lawn, and people were like freaking out.
Right.
But they didn't realize it was like in Maine in like February, where that ground is hard as a hard as a rock.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are kind of those operational variables, like
Right.
things like you said, like think, winter ice conditions completely changes how we approach a fire and how we approach apparatus positioning.
And even, I mean, some of the simple is like making sure the truck's in the right spot. So if you're a ladder, making sure that you have access to the most amount of the building, the biggest amount of how do you say that? The largest swath of the building as possible. I don't know. But, if you can get two sides of the building and the roof from where you're parked versus one side, or, power lines or whatever the case is, or if you're a pump, making sure you can get lines into the building, like free of obstructions. Adding on to the site, seen one recently for the engineers is just taking like the cap from the intake or like one of the couplings, like stacks of couplings from the cabinet, and just propping like the 4-inch up so that water drains under it instead of that the engine, you get like always get the massive pool of water that you're standing in. Yeah, just doing that so that the water can drain away. Thought that was pretty cool. And I also, there was a little bit of conversation about it, and I said too, if you're on like a steep incline or decline and there's really no choice but to be on an incline or decline, especially with a ladder, knowing where you're going to chalk the wheels is important, because generally you might chalk one side of the ladder, but if you're going to have to lift those wheels off the ground to get that ladder level, then you might want to chalk the other side. So there's a lot to know, and I think seeing which way your truck rolls, what kind of grade you're on, has a lot of different applications, or there's a lot of different things that go into knowing that. So thought it was a good tip.
I never really considered that, only because I guess for myself, I'm only chalking the engine, and even if you're on grade, if you're chalking the engine at a fire, the concern is that it's going to roll forward, right? Because, well, not roll forward, but drive forward if something were to happen. If it was to come out of pump somehow and just go into drive. Right. But, realistically, if you have time, I guess you can chalk it both ways. Couldn't hurt, right?
Do one on one side, one on the other.
Yeah, get everything going and then just chalk it.
And generally, like, you're chalking the drive wheels on an engine, the ones that actually move. But there's a lot of different things that go into that, so I thought that was
it's a good
cool
consideration.
That's cool one.
If you have any tactical tips and tricks, we'll put this stuff up, from time to time. But we'd love to hear some of the things, some of the more interesting things, some of the things that maybe are relative to the type of building construction or the type of tools that you use, and there could be another department out there that has the same or similar district and tools and setups, and might have never heard it. So please feel free to share that stuff with us. Again, you can DM us, you can comment on our YouTube video, you can comment on our social media posts, whatever. We want to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Keep it going.
It's always cool to hear interesting perspectives, especially from different parts of the country that have completely different conditions than we do.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. Like you said, like operating in Boston or Maine in February is very different from operating in Miami in February. Different from operating in Colorado even, or wherever. Like just totally different environments, totally different districts, building construction tools. Like everything's different. So please share that stuff with us. Cool. You guys ready?
Yeah, ready.
Let's do it.
Ready?
Born ready.
Question of the day.
Let's do it.
I'm kind of hoping that everybody's just on board with this one, because if you haven't noticed, I'm a fairly opinionated person. Yeah. We're miking up Big Dick Nick for this one.
Well, since I'm the tiebreaker, whatever it is.
You are the tiebreaker. And also, you're interesting.
Actually, you're kind of the tie maker.
Yeah, you could be one, or you're the tie maker today.
In a sense, I feel like that's even more power than...
That is more power. Then what do we have to phone a friend?
Good.
No, Kaya. I speak for my dog. My dog's over in the corner.
You're one of those? Oh, God.
She's her own woman, Barry.
She is. She's
a strong, independent.
There is another dog in the studio today. Not on our laps, which is disappointing, but she's over there sleeping. All right, let's get to it. Question of the day. Pineapple on pizza. Yes or no? Oof, Nick's already making faces. I'll save mine and let... fuck it, Nick. You're the...
Nope, absolutely
You want to go last? All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll go.
Buddy, how
am
am I a tiebreaker if I don't go last?
You're the tie maker today. You're
Whatever.
number 4.
But exactly, number 4. That's my point.
I am a hard yes.
Fucking right.
Ham and pineapple pizza, Hawaiian pizza, or just pineapple on pizza, I'm with it. I think, you have... Just like I've been saying all along, you need your crunchy offset in things like a taco. You have to have a crunchy.
All right, don't ruin
All
it,
right,
John.
I'm sorry.
Don't ruin
I'm
a
sorry.
good answer,
Okay.
for Christ's sake.
But my point is that you have like, you know, you have the bread, and then you have like a nice, like you have a sauce that has a certain flavor to it, and then you have the cheese to kind of like slow it down. But then you have the pineapple that just adds that pop.
Dude, yes. Barry?
My answer is a strong and unequivocal no way that I wouldn't enjoy having pineapple on my pizza.
Fucking
I
right,
actually
Barry.
enjoy it. So I will say I have grown, man. So I initially grew up, I did not like Hawaiian pizza. I didn't like it. It was just like, what? It didn't make sense to me. And then I had good Hawaiian pizza with actually good pineapple, good ham.
Yeah.
Domino's?
I believe I had some. No, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Can we say that? Mama Do's?
Yeah, Mama Do's.
Gross.
Unless they want to sponsor us.
I was going to say sponsors. Here we go.
Yeah.
Domino's, if you're listening, we
and I've-
love your Hawaiian pizza.
yeah.
Leave
And
out-
I do
leave
like
out the
it. I do
gross
like
part.
it now. But I like with like dipping it. I like a little blue cheese with it, which maybe makes me weird.
All right, we're good. You know,
Yeah,
Well, I know you're a ranch guy.
we're gonna
You're a ranch
segue
guy.
into that. So,
just-
But I really do. I do like Hawaiian pizza now.
so first and foremost, pineapple belongs on pizza. Absolutely. Here's my. I don't actually like Hawaiian pizza. Believe it or not, I don't like ham on pizza. I don't think it doesn't belong. It's just not my preference.
Yep.
But to support you, what do you glaze a fucking ham with when you cook a ham?
So obviously there's like the
I've
commercial
actually
glaze,
never thought
right?
about that.
Fucking pineapple.
Yeah,
You glaze it with pineapple.
he does make
What do you
a
mean?
good point.
Right? So why the sweet complements the salty? Should it have too much pineapple? No. I am a fan of what I like to call the spicy Hawaiian pizza, which is just pepperoni and pineapple
Never had that.
versus regular. What's up, Nick?
No, I was gonna take it a step further. Bacon and pineapple on
Yes.
pizza.
Yes.
And
Any
that-
pork-based product with pineapple.
yeah, pork is good with pineapple. It is.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would say
Soft
that-
bacon or crispy though?
So this is my only caveat. Okay, so when it's regular bacon, when you're just eating bacon with breakfast, to harken back, look at another floating thing. To
There
our
it is.
episode.
Whoa!
It's crazy.
This one is an Indy 500 race car.
this
racing
one,
around the screen.
That one I'll pay for. When it's regular bacon, breakfast bacon, it's got to be
I love
floppy.
this show.
It's shooting at us.
Yeah. Okay, we got a little expensive there on the.
Got such a good imagination.
The bacon, regular bacon's got to be floppy, but on with the pineapple because it's so soft and the pizza's soft, you can't have everything be soft. So I do like a little bit of crisp in the bacon.
I
Wow.
agree.
You
You know what?
No, this guy's on the
Pineapple.
right
Wow.
track.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good
I'll go with you on that. Like I
You
think
know?
like eating bacon
Yeah.
should be soft, but I agree. Like it's the sweet complements the salty, the crunch complements the soft. So yeah, I'll give you that one.
And that's the only reason.
Good point.
Yeah,
Very
I
good
mean I
point.
don't often retract my statements, but I'll give you that one.
Yeah, no. If you're ever trying to learn how to eat like a fat guy, just give me a call.
I eat like myself. So blue cheese on pizza is fucking gross.
No,
That's
no.
disgusting.
That's
What about
disgusting.
what's like buffalo
Ranch-
chicken?
Yeah, I'd do that.
But
no,
Buffalo
I'm a-
chicken
I'm-
pizza.
No, I'm a ranch guy.
Ranch.
Ranch all day
Ranch.
long.
Really?
Yeah.
So I will
I'll put
eat
ranch on
ranch.
pepperoni pizza.
But if I have the choice,
I dip every pizza.
and
in
I
ranch.
will say like I'm not. This isn't copious amounts. Just like a little.
Oh, no,
especially for like the
yeah, I
crust.
drink
Crust.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm a blue cheese guy.
So what's weird is I actually like blue cheese, but like, where you don't go in your refrigerator and pull out the fucking moldy
Did we have a
shit in the
conversation
back
about
of the
this recently?
fridge and be like, oh, look, this looks fucking tasty. Let's eat
I
it.
feel like
I
we had
don't
a
understand
conversation
why
about
we
this.
eat moldy cheese.
I think the funniest part about this entire thing is that the question itself is usually, depending on the group that you're in, pretty damn controversial. Like
I
pineapple
know.
on pizza is pretty
That-
controversial,
That
and
is.
yet leave it to Barry to take it a step further and go as much controversial as he can with the blue cheese
on
versus
pizza.
ranch.
No. Listen, if you want to put blue cheese on your
Well,
buffalo chicken,
It's not that controversial because we're tied. He likes blue cheese.
all right. So
Oh yeah, but he's a ginger.
on,
Does he
on
count?
pizza,
Yes.
Oh,
Put it
see,
on
here we
pizza,
go. I
John?
said it's only been cool to be a redhead as of recently.
Wait, but
Been dealing
you'll
with
put
these
blue cheese on
compliments.
pizza?
I'll call compliments for a long time. What's that?
You'll put blue cheese on pizza?
Like a Buff Chex pizza?
Yeah.
Buff Chex?
It's
dude?
literally got
Buff
a
Chex?
ranch-based sauce. So
Yeah,
why,
so
do you
why
add
do you
blue
put
cheese to it?
Why would you add ranch to ranch?
You don't have to. Yeah, there's
Tea
never
time.
enough ranch. Number one,
Not a big ranch guy. Just
Do you
gonna
like
put that
ranch?
out
not a
there.
big ranch.
Do you like ranch on salads? No one actually likes ranch on
Oh
I
salads.
my
do.
god, I totally thought you were going to say nobody actually likes salads. And I was like, agreed.
Yeah, I eat ranch on salads. All right, so I had
What about Cobb salad?
Oh,
Well, no, don't.
blue
You don't
cheese
just put
salad, though?
ranch.
Yeah.
You don't put you don't put anything willy nilly on a salad. Like if you're eating a fucking steak and blue cheese salad, you obviously don't put ranch on that. Like
It's just grilled chicken with like
Belongs
other
on a
stuff, and
garden-
it happens to have lettuce with it.
belongs
Half
on a
an egg.
garden
Yeah.
salad.
It's whatever was left over
Yeah.
in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, just give them that.
A garden salad, ranch all day. But I actually was prepared.
Thousand Island?
I was.
Thousand Island on
Nah,
burgers
I
is
I'm a
good.
big Thousand
Oh
Island guy. I do like
I hate
Thousand
Thousand
Island.
Island.
Love it.
Have you ever
I
had
hate it.
Thousand Island on a
100
burger?
Yes, every person on the planet has had a Big Mac in their life.
It's true.
That's what that sauce is the whole
Mac-
time.
it's
Mac
not.
sauce?
Are you serious?
No, it's not. There's a combo. There's a whole thing. I'll send you the recipe. It's pretty damn good.
It's listen,
Thousand Island base, but it's
basically
but there's-
Thousand Island.
Is
Thousand
it
Island's
proprietary?
What about what's the sandwich? Is it
I
a
got the
Reuben?
hookup.
All right.
Yeah, I don't like Thousand Island.
So I'll out myself. That's fine. I've been living with a secret for a long time. If AT&T is paying attention to this podcast, then
We
I know we're
accept
going places. So when I
I
first
would not do it.
No,
That's a big discount.
it is a big discount. So I've been living with this lie for a long time. AT&T, if you're listening, we might as
Sponsor
well-
us and we'll change it.
Yeah, sponsor us and we'll just keep this thing going. When I first switched from Verizon to AT&T, I gave him like my military ID,
Oh,
and the
God.
guy's like, he was in the Marine Corps. He's like, hey man, I'm gonna do you solid. He's like, the military discount's 20%. He's like, the Burger King corporate discount is like 30. So I have been a Burger King corporate employee for the last like 7 years.
Why is it more?
You might have to bleep
They
that.
pay
out.
Exactly,
they, like, pay for
AT&T.
it.
Why is the Burger King corporate?
Because
discount?
that's probably who Burger King uses for all
And
their stuff.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Barry is
Yeah.
the Burger King.
Yeah.
Pays in
Yeah.
greenbacks, and
Yeah,
Yeah,
military only pays with lives.
yeah,
yeah, not nearly
yeah.
as valuable.
Not
as
nearly
money.
as valuable.
Not at all. How could it?
right.
No. Anyways.
So getting a little long in the question of the day, but I am curious. I had a backup in case we were all in agreement, which makes my heart slightly happy.
No, that's just the bacon coming back
It's
up.
the bacon. That's angry. So all right. So real quick caveat back to my like first fire. So I had eaten pizza rolls at like midnight with this
Totino's?
Totino's, dude. I dipped in ranch. Fucking fiend. So I like had wicked heartburn, but I swear to God, I ate pizza rolls every shift for months after that, just like trying to replicate it.
Yeah.
All right. So if we all agree on the pineapple thing, what's your like just go-to pizza? Real quick, simple. What's your like? If you're like, I want pizza, I'm in the mood for pizza. What are you getting?
Honestly, lately it's been Hawaiian.
All right, respectable.
Also enjoy like meat lovers like bacon, hamburger, and like onion.
All right. Nope.
Yeah.
No. All right. What about you, John?
Drawing a blank on the what the frig is the meat that I always get on it. It's not pepperoni.
There's only
not-
like
it's not
a
bacon.
handful.
It's not.
Sausage?
It's not. No. Okay. It's linguiça. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word. Linguiça pizza. And if we're going as far to say go-to pizza, might as well be where it's from because Cape Cod Cafe in Brockton has the best fucking pizza
That's where you brought me,
in the
right?
world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't tried it, but I will.
Yeah.
I can vouch. It was
Unreal.
really good.
You know
So
what?
like AT&T, Domino's, Cape Cod Pizza. Who else are we trying to get sponsored from?
Well, we're gonna go to Dairy Queen after this.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice, perfect. What's your go-to? Nick?
Oh, easy, Roni, all day, just a regular. Like go to like
Yeah.
nothing special. I just want a pizza. I don't know what to get. I'm gonna get a pizza.
Yeah.
Roni all day.
So mine is either Roni or Roni and pineapple, and like
I haven't tried that.
I get like my wife makes fun of me because I tend to like get this like I'm adventurous as far as like I will try whatever, but like if I'm in the mood for a certain thing, I'm in the mood for a very specific certain thing. So like if I'm in the mood for a burger, I don't want a fucking blue cheese and bacon fucking whatever. I want a cheeseburger with like lettuce, pickle, and tomato. Onion, pickle, and tomato. I fucking hate lettuce. If I want a pizza, I want like a straight up pepperoni or pepperoni and pineapple. You know what I mean? If
That's
somebody else is
respectable.
ordering like something like a fig and prosciutto or something, I'll eat it. But like that's never gonna be my like go to.
Yeah.
If I'm in the mood for pizza, I'm not in the mood for pizza. I'm in the mood for pepperoni pizza. If that makes sense.
Got it.
Yeah. But we should try that place. And you should try a pepperoni and pineapple pizza. It's fucking delicious. Especially if
Might
the
order
pepperonis
one
are like
right after this.
crispy.
Yeah. I will.
Cool.
I will before our next shoot. I will get us some pizzas the night before, and I'll bring them in.
Cape Cod.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd
It
be
is
awesome.
really good.
So
That would be awesome.
does that stove work? Does that oven work?
We're firefighters,
We'll
which probably makes it worse.
Yeah, it makes it way worse.
We'll heat them.
This building almost burned down once already. So.
All right, never mind. We'll just bring them in, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Cool.
All right, so I think that does it for us today. Thank you for tuning in to episode 6, talking about our first fires. We want to hear about your first fires, so please send us a DM. Again, you can hit us up on the social media. We're going to put some of these photos up for the shout out for Lawrence on social media. Comment under there, wherever you want. Send us an email, whatever. It doesn't matter. We want to hear about your first fires and any lessons you learned.
Yeah.
Because a lesson you learned is a lesson that somebody else doesn't necessarily have to learn the hard way. So keep an eye on our social media. Again, we love getting your feedback. We love seeing what you guys have to say on our posts and our questions. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and share it. This is the two biggest things that you can do for us. It's all Facebook algorithms or YouTube algorithms on whether we get shown, and we can't share this knowledge if we don't get views and stuff on our stuff. So please share it. You can find us in this podcast on YouTube. Also, you can find it on all the major podcast streaming services: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you go for your podcasts. Subscribe, set an alert. That'll let you know every week, Saturday at noon. And if you're an expert on something in the fire service, like, I don't know, lithium-ion batteries or, or venting flat roofs or whatever the case is, please reach out to us. If you have something to share and you want to share it, please reach out to us and let us know, because we would love to pick your brain or have you on or do a virtual meeting with you or something to share that knowledge around. Yeah. And we want it to be user driven. So if there's something that you are interested in seeing or interested in talking about or want to run through a call or whatever the case is, again, reach out to us. JobTlks.com, at JobTlks on Facebook or Instagram, JobTlks on YouTube. I think you get the point. We're called JobTlks with no A. And we're definitely not going to be able to afford it after this episode.
Nope.
And we are looking forward to continuing this. Thank you guys very much for viewing.
See you in episode 7.
See ya.
JobTlks out.